Hello and welcome to the Bald Truth Review, episode 12, part 1 of a look back at the most important events of the past year. You know, back in 2011, one of the most upsetting and shocking events was the killing of 6 people in Jersey, including 3 young children, by Damon Wrzosowski. Now, shocking as that was, when this finally came to trial in 2012, events and information that unfolded regarding the mental health issues of this individual and how he'd sought help within the Jersey system was deeply shocking in itself, because what transpired in the court backed up information that was drawn out by Deputy Shona Pittman and questionings of the Health Minister that revealed that if you were to seek help for psychological problems, depression, it could take up to 8 weeks to get that assistance. 8 weeks. Now, can that be acceptable in a modern and apparently caring democracy? I suggested it just cannot. Of course, a weight of this period isn't an excuse for such a tragedy, but it surely is a mitigating factor. Only a few weeks ago we were being told by Senator Philip Balash that we could sign an open cheque to purchase Plymouth. Yet if we're cutting back on frontline services, desperately important frontline services such as psychological counselling help for vulnerable people, surely that says to me that our priorities in Jersey are wrong. Now, the next issue I'd like to talk about is the collapse of Jersey's fulfilment industry. Now, when you look back over the past year, a theme that begins to jump out at you is that really, truth be told, those at the top of our island's government are actually not very good at what they do. Of course, to criticise is to risk immediately being tagged as some kind of enemy of Jersey, a wrecker. But let's just consider fulfilment. When this was set up, almost every progressive politician under the sun could see the potential for this ultimately collapsing as soon as the economic climate became a bit chilly. When governments, other jurisdictions started to get a bit squeezed, they'll naturally seek to get all their tax back. Now, you'd have to say, if all the so-called lefties and progressives noticed this, surely the big political movers and shakers of the day, the Senators Walkers, the Ossoffs, the Swears, Horsefields, must have noticed this too. Otherwise, I suppose ignorance would be some kind of excuse. But of course, they did know about these potential problems. But what they did, I'm afraid, is choose to play Russian roulette with Jersey's economy. The result, of course, has been that several years on, the fulfilment industry did hit the buffers. And the real tragedy of all this, a lot of ordinary, decent men and women have lost their livelihoods. What this surely says to us is that you do not build an industry on foundations of sand. Fulfilment was built on a tax loophole in the UK system. It was, as I said, always likely to be challenged once things became a bit uncomfortable on the mainland. As we saw last April, it really did hit the buffers. Are people like me wrong for highlighting the foolishness of going down this route? I don't think we are. I think the ultimate blame must be with those who, as I say, gambled with Jersey's economy. And of course, if we don't move on and ensure that our economy is in the safe hands of people at the top, we'll make these same mistakes again. I don't think that's a risk that we should be taking. Restoring our justice system is the biggest challenge to face we progressives in 2013. Now, I'm a sitting member of the island's parliament. I don't say lightly that our justice system has broken down, but I am saying that. And I'm saying that because the evidence is all around us. How can we have a situation, as is emerging now, late in 2012, where we see law officers who were apparently quite happy to sanction illegal activities of police officers involved in a major drugs case, then being able to dodge the bullets, so to speak, while those police officers are facing the consequences? What does that say about our justice system? Indeed, how can we have internationally respected journalists such as Leah McGrath Goodman being banned from the island? Banned from the island not because she's a criminal, but because she's actually digging, researching, chipping away for evidence that our mainstream media just will not touch. In effect, a journalist from outside the island doing what our media should be doing. Where does this end? Well, if we don't challenge it, the truth of the matter is that Jersey cannot call itself a functioning democracy. You're not an enemy of the island to raise these issues. Justice is a fundamental cornerstone of democracy, and it should be available to all. It should be guaranteed for all. We cannot, as I say, have law officers usurping the role of government. We cannot have jurats, judges even, sitting on judicial reviews where they're so heavily conflicted that if they tried to do this in other jurisdictions, it would be laughed out of court. Laughed out of court everywhere, probably from Burma to Uganda. I say it again, this justice system is the biggest challenge that we progressives face in 2013. It's worth a whole episode of the Bald Truth Review in itself, and I can tell viewers that in January it will be getting one. If there's one other issue that came up in 2012 that really tells us that if things are going to change, then we progressives have to adopt a process of taking these matters off island, it's surely what underlay the Lime Grove House saga. Now again, this subject could have a programme all to itself. We saw allegations of smear campaigns against civil servants. We saw allegations of complete irresponsibility on getting valuations of the site, what it was worth from the taxpayer's pocket. We saw what was going to be a vote of censure in the Treasury Minister. Indeed, we were even told at one point that there was likely to be a vote of no confidence in the Council of Ministers over the whole handling of this, what you have to say, fiasco. You saw some excellent research from people like Senator Sarah Ferguson, it has to be said, into whether the Lime Grove House area was even the best place for the new police station. But when all was said and done, months and months down the line, what's actually happened? Who went? Was there a censure motion? Was there a vote of no confidence? No. All that really happened was one of the most respected and honourable men in the island, the Controller and Auditor General, the CAG, was ousted. Perhaps the most important independent voice within the Jersey system. He was gone. At the moment, indeed, we still do not have Controller, Auditor General. Can that be right for a 21st century democracy? Of course it can't. The lesson to be learned for us all, we have to work together. It's not about left and right in these issues. People, politicians who are not members of the establishment, the kitchen cabinet who run this island as a private club for the rich, when these things come to the surface, we've got to work together. Because if we don't, then things will just stay the same. things won't improve. And that surely is another lesson for the start of 2013. No, you know, it's funny, but when you look back at some of these issues over the last 12 months, if it's anything to do with promoting democracy and transparency of government, you'd always find that Senator Philip Balash is there arguing against it. And I highlight this now because I want to talk about the open vote proposition, which I successfully brought in 2012. This was to establish an open vote for all positions in the states. Because viewers might remember, in 2011, I actually successfully won an open vote for the election of Chief Minister. This is also important because in a democracy, surely you, the voter, we, the voter, have a right to know what goes on in the states. We needed to know that if someone stood on our doorstep at election time telling us one thing, they weren't going to then do the exact opposite once the doors of secrecy and the corridors of power were closed. That's what used to happen. Why is transparency and openness so important in politics? Well, put in a nutshell, it's because of political accountability. With knowledge comes power. The power to hold those people who are allegedly representing us to account. And you've got to ask, why is it that people like Senator Balash are so against these matters, these issues? Surely it can only be a good thing that you get to know who are these little cliques who are kingmakers, who put a person into the role of Chief Minister, put a person into the role of Treasury Minister. Without a party political system, the fact of the matter is that Jersey will never have completely accountable politics. Now I'm going to end this BTR review of 2012, part 1, with the issue of the Electoral Commission, or rather the hijacked Electoral Commission. Now viewers will probably recall that one of the true successes of 2011, certainly in the eyes of we progressives, was Deputy Daniel Wimberley's successful proposition to the states to establish a fully independent Electoral Commission. Yet, having achieved that, what happened? Well, along came Senator Philip Balash. What was the motives for Senator Balash hijacking this Electoral Commission? And indeed, I asked the question, could it be tied in with his other keen interest of independence for Jersey? Now, those of us who've actually read former Police Chief Graham Power's 62,000 word interim response to the Wiltshire Constabulary will know that the Balash brothers have apparently been exploring the potential for independence for Jersey since at least 2007. Just a few weeks ago, we actually saw a documentary on another pair of brothers, the Barclay brothers in Sark, carried out by journalist Mr. John Sweeney. Maybe I could suggest that Mr. Sweeney actually comes over to Jersey and carries out another bit of documentary research into the Balash brothers, just to see where this whole process of independence and what it would mean for Jersey would actually take us. How does this issue of the Electoral Commission and the absolute obsession that the Senator has with keeping the constables in position, how does it all knit together? Now, I'm going to leave you there and just remind you, get involved, because if you don't do politics, politics will do you.